Welcome to Women Talk. I'm Joyce. It's been said that women talk about everything, anything, anytime, and anywhere. Two women at a book signing event. While waiting for their turn to meet the author and have their book that they purchased signed, they began a quick informal conversation about why they wanted the author to affix their signature to the book they just purchased. By the time the first one reached the author, they had already exchanged who admired the author the most, who the book was for, which one wanted a personalized inscription from the author, and who wanted just the date and signature, and which one brought additional books from their personal collection for the author to sign. Welcome to Women Talk. Today is another opportunity for women to share their experiences. Before we get started, today's guests are Spring, Lietta, and Rebecca. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves before I tell you the topic.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Martin. I was in the field of education for a total of 35 years. I started out as a middle school science teacher. Then I went to the high school, and I saw a need to switch and become a school counselor. So I've done quite a bit.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Lietta Golvin. I am married, mother of three. I am a teacher of English language arts. I've taught several grade levels, but I currently teach intermediate school, and I really enjoy it.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Spring Casterlow. I am also a wife and a mother of five. Grandmother to four. Yes, thank you. And I'm a special ed teacher. I've been special ed teacher for 4 years. Been in teaching in the district for 9. Yes.
Wow. So you know what today's topic is. It's teachers. Teachers fill a variety of titles and categories. We have preschool, elementary, you have middle school, high school, special education, physical education, bilingual, homeschool, vocational teachers. And let's not forget the post-secondary educational teacher known as professors. Nevertheless, they are lifelong learners, and teachers possess many skills. Keep in mind, they work with a diverse group of people, children, even babies. So ladies, what got you started in teaching?
I guess if I were to really reflect on it, it probably started when I was in middle school, and a woman by the name of Sophie Weinberger had a great deal of faith in me and told me I can do it. I also had a male teacher tell me I was aiming too high.
Oh,
So I listened to Sophie.
Women Talk.
What started me on the path of teaching was simply once my children hit an age where they were in school all day, I decided as a stay-at-home mom initially, let me find something to do with my time, and I started being a substitute teacher. As I was a substitute teacher, there were a lot of encouragement from my now colleagues on why I should become a teacher, understanding the rapport that I had with a lot of the students that was really pretty positive, and it just started me on a path to decide to become a teacher.
Spring.
Yeah, I have a similar story. I went back to school later in life and got my bachelor's degree and thought I was going to be a professor. And then I was like, yeah, I didn't want to do that. And then I started subbing. And then I got into a cycle of teaching with special ed teachers and just fell in love with what they did and how they worked with the children. And then I took it from there. And then I started working towards my master's in special ed. And with a lot of encouragement from a lot of women telling me to do this, I started teaching with special ed. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I am not a teacher. So this is all really interesting to me. And what happened with me, though, I did do some teaching. I taught some healthcare issues around healthcare reform. And I found the challenges were with adults because they think they know everything. And so you had to deal with all these varying levels of adults in healthcare, from the CEO down, who had their own personal opinions. And so you would attempt to try to help them understand healthcare reform. And one of the biggest things they would do to me is, don't tell me that. Don't share that with my people. I'll be the one to give it to them, so you can find another way to deliver that message. So that was my challenge. So I'm going to ask you guys, have you had any challenges that stick out in your mind about things that became almost a wall for you?
Well, I guess in terms of my own situation, I remember a time when science teachers had to buy their own materials. I mean, I was buying paper, I was buying paper towel to clean up because the budget did not permit it. So that was a financial challenge, but there are many teachers out there now who are doing the same thing. They're buying pencils, they're buying pens, and you do what you have to do to make it work.
Is that what you guys are experiencing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That has not changed. There is a finite budget for classroom materials, but throughout the year, you are constantly using your own funds to replenish classrooms, to replenish simple things like pencils and erasers for students. But on top of that, I have found one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing in the classroom today is student behavior. Sometimes the students, and I know a lot of people attribute it to the lockdowns for COVID, and I think that that does play some role, but the students have come back, and there are enormous behavioral issues in some of the classrooms that are simply not addressed on an appropriate level, and it really sometimes can bring a classroom to a full stop when you are trying to educate students and get a curriculum across, and you are on a daily basis dealing with some really, at times, aggressive behavioral issues in the classroom.
Well, Spring, you deal with special ed.
Yep.
Do you find children more aggressive?
I do agree with Leetta in parts where, because I get to work in a classroom with another teacher. So most of the time there's two teachers, a general ed teacher and myself. But that is one of the major challenges, is behavior, because we can't get a child to learn or to begin learning because we have to get them regulated first. And a lot of it is the behavior that we're not able to have a child understand at that moment. Like, we have to get you understanding what we're hearing. Like, you have to not speak to us in that tone of voice. You can't run out of the room. You can't not do your homework. You know, like, there's a lot of social emotional stuff that's going on that's very challenging. But yeah, so I am actually blessed that I'm able to work in a setting where I'm not just the gen ed teacher. I'm also supporting the general ed teacher, where I can kind of pull that child with a behavior to the side, or I can pull them out. Whereas many general ed teachers don't have this support in the room. They're actually dealing with these behaviors on their own and trying to maintain, you know, a professional teaching environment that other students have to learn. So it does take away from other students as well when the behaviors are not in check.
And just piggybacking on what these two young ladies have said, you'll owe me money. I called you two young ladies.
Take it.
That's one of the reasons why I left science teaching at the high school level and transferred into school counseling. Because when the kids were coming to me after school to get extra help in labs, I started hearing about cases of abuse at home, cases of not having enough to eat. That's why the high school that I did work at, one of the good things they did do was start a breakfast program where kids came in the morning, ate breakfast, and then went to class. And we did see a decline in some of the aggressive behavior because you're grouchy when you're hungry, you know? So little things like that. So that's why I did switch.
So, Rebecca, let me ask you this question. Are you still teaching?
No, ma'am. I retired after 35 years. But I think I
Okay.
teach in another way.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah,
You heard what
te-
I said.
Yes.
Teachers have a lifelong skill,
Yes.
and they're always learning. They never stop. Okay. So my question, because when I was in school, I don't know if you guys can relate. The teachers were so strict. We wouldn't dare speak out of turn, say something that was inappropriate. Okay, we wouldn't dare because you had this fear that your mother would find out, and then you're in bigger trouble than you ever thought you were in, or you would have to stay after school. So I don't know if they still do stay after school.
Detention. Yeah.
The stay after school. Okay, y'all still do stay after school?
For my grade level, usually if you're staying after school, it's because we're trying to help you with something academically, not necessarily because we don't really do after school detentions for behavior.
Oh.
It's more because we're trying to help you hit a benchmark. But I will say that the strictness of schools from back then has changed. Specifically, like when I'm in my classroom with my students, I encourage them to share. I encourage them to talk. It is really important to develop a good relationship with your students because that's the only way that you can help them. And that goes a long way in trying to maintain classroom management in the classroom. But it also is, they're very interesting people when you get a chance to have them open up and talk to you. So it's not as strict as an environment as it was back in the day. And I'm glad for that. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to allow our students to speak and to talk to us. And it creates a safe space for them so that when there is a problem or when there is bullying or when there is any issue that they're facing, you've now created a space that they feel comfortable coming to you and having really in-depth conversations with you that you can then refer them on to the appropriate place to get assistance.
Yeah, teachers become the first line of action when it comes to students with behavior because it's not as strict in our district as well. Like if you get an after school detention, it's for something really serious, and because their first line is to talk to them, to bring them to the appropriate counselor or but I do think that adds another level of challenge for teachers too, because not only are we responsible for teaching them, so much of that emotional language that the students are not equipped to deal with, we are the first people that they talk to. It's the pulling out in the hallway and taking away from instruction and making sure that they are able to talk to us clearly and get their ideas out before we can even get them to the counselor or to the principal. So that's another level that they don't realize that we have too. I mean, I feel like sometimes as a teacher, you also need a psychology degree because you are a school counselor as well as their teacher, as well as their confidant. And sometimes we have a lot of students that they don't talk to their parents. Their parents don't know a lot of stuff. And we get a lot of that. And then weaving through, well, what do I tell your parents and how can I share this and how do we get them? So it can be challenging with the behaviors. And we, in our school district, we have a reflection room.
A who? What?
A
A what?
A reflection room. So when your behaviors get over the top, instead of having the detention, I mean, we do still send you to the principal.
So the child goes into a
Quiet room.
reflection room, a quiet room, and do
Yes.
what?
And there's a teacher in there that they're able to talk. They're allowed to write their feelings down.
Oh,
They're
okay.
allowed to
Okay.
reflect
Okay.
on the behavior and how it
Okay.
affected themselves, other people. And yeah, so an after school detention would be the extreme, like the absolute last resource.
So let me ask about this reflection room. It's very curious. So it's only one child per reflection, or is it, if I had a class where I had 2 children or 3 young adults even acting out, do I send them to this reflection room?
You can send them to the reflection room. So there's many different rooms, right? So you have reflection, you have detention, you have after school, but the
So
reflection,
you get detention, you get reflection, you get
In-school suspension.
right, in school suspension. But the reflection room is usually the student led. The student would lead that. Like, I need to go to the reflection room, or
The student says this.
Yes, or we can
It's very
suggest
interesting.
it. We can suggest that you go to this time to reset, regulate, and then we can go from there.
Now, we don't have a reflection room in our school, but each classroom does have a calm corner or an area in the classroom where
Calm corner. I'm sorry.
where students are, you go to reset. And
Okay.
I will say initially that was my reaction when we had to set up calm corners, but I have found that when you explain to the student what the corner is for and when they are acting a little out of pocket, one of the things that's helpful is to use the language that they're familiar with, that we've taught them. You need to reset because the class is being disrupted. I need you. And sometimes that reset might just be, you have 3 minutes to go and get some water. Come back. When you come back into the classroom, I need you to reset that behavior, or you need to schedule some time to go and sit with the counselor. But they know that they have a space that if they are feeling overwhelmed, if they are dealing with some emotions that because they just came from recess and there's something that went on that I am not privy to, and now they've brought that into the classroom, they have a safe space somewhere in the classroom that if they go and sit there, I understand, okay, you need a minute. And so as I haven't had any students actually abuse the calm corner, but I think that it's a changing of the times in recognizing that is a lot of social emotional issues that are coming into the classroom with these students, and we have to be able to find a way to honor their feelings at that moment if we want to have any success in trying to actually teach the curriculum that they need to learn.
Yes.
Rebecca?
Back in the day, I'm the old one of the group. One of the things I tried to do as a science teacher is to make things very hands-on so that they wanted to learn and not being able to proceed. Other kids were making the one acting up be quiet because they wanted to learn. The other thing that helped me, I let them listen to music, but low. So you want to hear Boys to Men? Low. You better be quiet. Otherwise, you won't hear it. And they would do their little dissections and help each other out listening to music. If it got loud, the music went off, instruments went down, and they had to listen to me, which they didn't want to do. You make phone calls home, tell the parent good news first, then you give them the bad news. Okay? Johnny tried to eat my frog today. You know, something like that. Okay? As a way of entertaining others. But I think the parent is crucial in this, because if you don't get cooperation from the parent and letting them know that this behavior here is unacceptable and your child can do better.
Yes.
And I expect better.
Yes.
You'll get better. If you expect Johnny to come in there and act silly every day, he's got a new job. He's the class clown.
I definitely, just to add, is parental involvement is crucial.
Yes.
I think, you know, when you look at the headlines today, and it seems to try to adopt an adversarial position between teachers and parents.
Good point.
And that is the farthest thing from the truth.
True.
Teachers do not want to be parents' adversaries.
No.
We desperately want to be your partners. If you want to know what's going on in my classroom, I have no problem with you letting me know what's going on in my classroom. In fact, in my district, when we start the school year, we invite parents to our Google Classroom so that they can take a look at what we're working on, what the students are working on, what assignments to do. We invite, please come to back to school night, find out what the curriculum is going to be and what your child is expected to learn and what the behaviors in the classroom are expected. And when we call you, it's because we want to partner with you, because we know we can pull out the best for your child, but we need you to be our partners in doing that. And I think so the most vital thing is parental involvement. It is something that teachers desperately we relish, we would love to have. And it's not, don't believe the hype where there's teachers and parents and we don't want you to know what's going on in the classroom. Most teachers absolutely, because we know 90% of our behavioral issues will evaporate when that student knows that we have a great relationship with
With
your
the
parent,
parent.
and that if we call that parent and we have a three-way, that behavior is going to be fixed. And so that is what we are desperately looking for. In addition, it also helps academically, because it also holds that child accountable. Even if you don't know how to help that student with their homework, ask to see their homework. That now makes that child have to produce, oh, this is what's available. Oh, yeah, oh, I forgot that I had this assignment that's due tomorrow. So it has everyone on the same page. And so it's just very important for parents to realize we are your partners. We need your help. We want your help. And your child will be the better for it.
I totally agree.
Amen.
You know, I'm listening because I'm even older than you, young lady. Get out of here. And one, there were no telephones in the classroom when I was going to school. So that was out. So nobody was calling my mother, okay? Because there were no telephones in the class. Everything was done by mail.
Oh, my.
And I cannot tell you how many young folks I know would get to the mailbox first and take it out. And the only discipline that the teachers had at that time, you call it a quiet corner. We said, go and stand in the corner and turn your face to the wall. And that's where the student kept their face until the teacher was ready to allow them to come and sit back.
In front of the whole class?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you stood in, I don't know, front room, back room. I remember many students, some were in the front, some were in the back of the room, but they had to face the wall. So the teacher could be up there teaching, but you weren't getting the advantage of it because guess what?
Oh, my.
You were facing the wall.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think that to me is more upsetting that I'm having a student in my classroom facing the wall and kind of being separated than dealing with that active issue. I think I would rather deal with that active behavior than have you go and stand. But see, this is how times change.
That times
Yeah,
have changed because I'm listening
Yeah.
and I'm remembering. I remember when I was in 5th grade.
Wow.
You stood you faced the wall.
Also now with technology, we have things called Naviance and Genesis, and parents can go in and look at
See?
attendance. They can look at
Yes.
all kinds of things, report card, grades, progress report, grades.
So
that
no
the
more
teachers-
grabbing that mail.
Correct.
Get rid of it.
Correct. In fact, and that's the other thing that parents learn in back to school night, the tools that we use to keep them involved in the classroom. So for example, for my own children with the school district, every time a teacher inputs a grade, I get an alert to my phone. So I already know if an assignment is missing, I get an alert to my phone. So when I get home, I can actively engage my children in, what is going on with this. And most school districts have something where the parents can get an app on their phone or come something to their email where they are alerted every time a teacher puts a grade in. So that would eliminate if parents just, and these are all free apps, if they just engage with those kinds of tools, it won't come as a surprise before we get to the end of the year and we have to say, hey, this student is having a problem in class. That parent will already know that there's an assignment missing because they would have been able to go in and see for themselves before we actually make the contact home that there was an assignment missing. So all of these things are just valuable ways to keep parents engaged with us in the classroom.
Did any of you have a mentor or a supporter when you were teaching?
Yes.
Yes.
In the beginning, yes.
And do they just go away?
No, I'm still really good friends with my mentor, special ed teacher. She's wonderful. And I still reach out to her probably more than my teachers that I work with. Like I'll say, I'll have a problem and I can go to her anytime. No, it doesn't go away. She's still mentor.
My mentor is one's right across the hall. And then I have my other mentor who's right next door to me. And again, it's the relationship that you develop with your mentors are actually really significant, and it never stops because they're your colleagues, and you can consistently bounce things off them, consistently troubleshoot. And I was fortunate enough that my mentors have been in teaching for a long time. And so they've also seen the changes that are going on and have been able to adapt amazingly. And we can then tap into some of the things that they did back in the day that work that might need to be tweaked in the classroom. So having a mentor in education is vitally important.
Absolutely.
Again, back in the day, I was in New York City involved in a program called Project City Science. And I had 3 mentors, but I'll give credit to one. And I'll say that only because one had kind of given up in terms of classroom management, and he had a little cluster of kids around his desk, and the rest of the kids were doing only God knows what. So
wow.
it wasn't good.
Wow.
It wasn't good. The other one, he was kind of good, but he made me cry because on my first lesson plan, he put a big red X through the whole thing and told me this was too hard.
Oh no.
Didn't show me how to break it down, just took a red pen and put a big red X through the whole. I went home upset. So I dealt with him, but it wasn't fun. The fun one was Grace. Grace knew her stuff. Knew her stuff. Now the other one who had given up, they were doing a lab on how to dissect frogs, and midway through, the frogs were waking up on the dissecting pan. Pins flying everywhere. I said, I don't think this is gonna work. I don't think this is gonna work. And I had to leave him. So it was interesting.
I was just going to ask the question, what's the most interesting thing you've come across, or the rewarding thing that you've come across while you've been teaching? Could even be the funniest, because I think that's funny that the frogs start.
I got stories, Boo. I got stories. But I guess the most rewarding thing for me is when the students come back and they're doctor this, or I'm a dentist, or I'm a science teacher too, because I liked what you did. That is a great reward for me, to hear where my kids are now.
Any rewards?
I think for me, the biggest reward has been when students that I have passed through my classroom come back or send me an email just saying, I want to thank you because you drilled this into me, and now I see this all the time in the high school level and I know how to do it, or just thank you for believing in me. And believe it or not, it's just the small thank yous that really is what makes you realize I'm where I need to be.
And for me, I just, the rewarding thing is just watching them change from like September to like June. Like they're just different people. Like, and I just enjoy like pouring into them and I do like the thank you. For me, it's more the parents. Like, I can't believe that they were able to learn this year. I'm so glad that so-and-so had you this year because they're able to talk more with us and, more eye contact or whatever it is, whatever goal. If they reach it, I had a small part of it.
Well, ladies, I can't believe we're already out of time.
Wow.
Because I had so many other things to ask, but the only thing I'm going to say to the audience is remember to be kind to teachers. Yes. Because in a way, they are the surrogate parents of your children. Let them know they are so appreciated. Because we have them in all ages groups, and you've just heard from the special ed, from the teacher who did science, and from the, I want to call it the English language teacher. This is just a taste of what goes on in the school systems. And so what you guys go home with, because that was going to be my next set of questions, the burdens that you go home with, or the challenges, or ready to go lock yourselves in what do you call that room? The reflection room. And do some reflecting, okay? So I just want to say thank you to my guests here. And I want to thank the Piscataway Community TV crew because they are so wonderful. And I want everybody to remember that women talk about everything, anytime, anywhere, any day. They feel like talking, they talk, and it doesn't matter where you meet someone. If you wish to participate on the show or have a topic, please send me an email to joyce@colesj7@gmail.com, or you can give me a call at 1-848-264-6735. Next month's topic is things. It's going to be very interesting. So we get to talk about all kinds of things.
Yes. Wow.
So.